COPs, sustainability, how to actually create them and keep them. Based on the experience of our COPs here, we have 5 COPs, and we have got the facilitators of the 5 COPs sort of seated around the room. So if you wouldn't mind, when I call your name, could you please maybe just stand up and wave? So Robert, I see you already. So this is Dr. Robert Wright. He is the facilitator of the community practice for developing, recognising and rewarding excellent teaching. And then Julia, where is Julia? So here is Julia, who is our new head of Education Development Centre also. And Julia is the facilitator of the English Enhancement in Students, COP. And then we have Andrew, where is Andrew? There he is, Dr. Andrew Smith, and he is the facilitator of the academic advising. And then Grace, where is Grace? Dr. Grace Tan, and she is leading the community practice for service learning, and is very, very involved and has just come back from Cambodia. And we have one more.
That's me.
Now, how could I possibly forget Eric? Because Eric Chow, who facilitates the COP for the Learning Management System, Blackboard and online learning. And actually, Eric is one of the most dynamic people you would ever meet, and is so willing to share his ideas. We also, of course, have Jackie, who will be here to augment and add on and things for various discussions. This is supposed to be driving community of practice, community being the key word. And so, while you might know who you're sitting beside, you might not. And you're sitting in a chair that should actually turn around. So what I would like you to do over the next 30 seconds is please just say hello to the people sitting on each side of you and behind you. Tell each other who you are, and then we'll start the discussion. Okay, I hope now you're in first name terms with some of the people sitting around you. And I'm Iris, by the way. Alright, there are a few questions that have come up from COPs, and I think, unfortunately, only one of these has been handed in. But if you've got any questions, you can easily pass them down to the front. There are 3 questions that have been identified, and I will come to this one. This will not be forgotten. What I would like to do is if we can concentrate on question 1. So this is how can we cultivate the community? Now we heard a lot of very useful stuff from Jackie, but based on the experience here at PolyU, how do you cultivate your community? Which that word cultivate means a lot of different things. So what I would like to do is maybe ask the facilitators to just lead off, maybe just 1 minute, if you can say what you've done within your community, and then we'll see if there are suggestions, questions, and issues that come up from the rest of the audience. So, Eric, would you like to kick off on this one? Just a minute telling us about your cultivation policy, if you like.
Okay, thank you. To me, all COPs need to have a domain of focus, so a specific topic. Now, finding that topic and settling on that topic is important, because that topic, actually, if you choose it right, you will actually attract a fair amount of people coming forward, because they're interested in solving those issues. They're interested in, for example, giving a watching brief on some of the things that discovered in that particular topic. So I work very much on that topic first, and then I try to look for, whether there's a group of people, try to find those people that are interested, try to find those people who should be interested, who would be interested, already interested, especially passionate people that you can invite to form your community initially, because these are the core nucleus, a core group of your people. These are the people who help to erect and get the COP into shape before you spin it into a much bigger scale, put it this way. And then the other thing is we also sit together within this core group to play in some activities. These activities are not just meetings, but cross-sharings. among the members, as well as invite external people, whether these are people outside the COP or people from other universities, legendaries as well, to come in to shed light on what are some of the things, challenges, opportunities in that particular field. So a combination of that with passion, I'm sure it can be lifted off.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Maybe, Juliet, volunteering.
Okay, if I can just thanks, Julie.
Thanks for nothing.
If I can just follow up from that. Eric talked about domain of focus, and I agree with that. I think the domain of focus should be something that addresses a gap or a need. So it's not simply a domain of focus because there can be so many. But what are the gaps out there? What are the gaps that we would like to bridge, we would like to cross? What are some areas of needs that we would like to address? And then when we have that, then we have a vision. And the vision, I think, is very important in community of practice, as in all other types of learning and teaching initiatives. What is the vision? Where do we want to go from here? Where do we want to arrive at? And then we, like what Eric said, then we try and proactively try and get people to come on board. And when those people come on board, then we together, we map out the road to that final goal that we want to get to. It's a path of collaboration, a path of discovery. It's a path of collaboration, and people are the most important thing. I'm looking at people who have been working with me on the community of practice. They have such a big heart. They are the factors that lead to success in community of practice. Together we have this vision, we share the vision, and we share that passion that Eric said at the very end. I think those are some factors of success for COP.
Okay, thank you. Next. Andrew, how about you?
All right. I just maybe further reiterate what the other leaders said. I think it's the people, and particularly when we hear about this is a social learning group. So we need to find the good models of practice like in academic rising. All around Poly, actually, different departments, different program leaders, they have different ways of doing academic rising, which is for the particular student group, which has a different some departments like they do a lot of rising when students first come. Sometimes they do it when students go for field work. So there are different purposes of doing it, and they have different strategies. And I can see people are very much like to know how people do the same thing, academic rising in different ways and different strategies. And we all learn from each other, and we have to pick out examples, ask people to share, and I'm sure a lot of people are willing to share their good practice. And I think that's the basic thing. The other thing is resources and also policy, which is when we find out that when you have to implement strategies in academic rising, so you need resources in some way, even the cake and coffee and so on. Right, and also sometimes you also meet with students, and we could make it more present, do it in a nice way. So the money that we receive from the university, we give it out to different the COP leaders, the core members, and also people can apply for our funding to support their own activities. I think that's another. The third thing is all the COP core members actually continue to talk to us that the COP sooner or later should be connected to some ways of effecting their views to the university senior management in some way. So they want to not just as a matter of practice, but also they want to contribute to institutional policies making and sort of. They want to make it feel like that this is an important part of teaching, and that I think that is very reasonable. That in future when it develops, do you feel that they're really useful? The views can get to, maybe some momentum changing university policy. Thank you.
Grace, can we come over to you?
Yeah, thank you, Iris. So I think that for the service learning community process, we were very fortunate. Dr. McDonald talked about the essence of a community practice having the champion and the sponsor. And we were very fortunate to get very generous sponsorship from the UGC and PolyU, so that we can have our meetings, we can have our first refreshments, and then we can also sponsor some of our members to go on conferences or to do some professional development. In terms of the champions, I think here, this is where we have been especially fortunate because in service learning, I think we are all champions. I mean, these are a group of teachers who are extremely passionate and extremely dedicated towards doing something that's very, very difficult, that's very challenging. And so here we already had a bunch of champions, that needed each other, that needed each other's support, that needed each other's help. And so it lent itself very easily to a community practice. Service learning by nature is multidisciplinary. By nature, it is effective. So therefore, these are things that work very well when it comes to a community that's already organic, that's already grown from the bottom up. And in our community of practice, I think the things that we have been able to help each other, apart from the support, is also being able to share expertise, being able to share practice, sharing context, or even sharing our expertise. Like, for example, we'll go to somebody, I've gotten to know a lot of people in the community of practice, and they're like, hey, my community partner would appreciate someone with this expertise. Would you be willing to help? Or would you be willing to come and give a guest lecture in my class to my students? And these are the sorts of things that we have really been able to gain, and that helps all of us be able to take our own class and service learning as a whole to the next level, where we start to share our research and through conferences, through workshops, trying to make service learning become a culture at Hong Kong PolyU.
So I'm with developing, recognizing and rewarding excellent teaching, COP. I think our vision, if we have to articulate it, is really beginning with the end in mind. I think it's quite a powerful, simple statement, because given the challenges organizations are facing in the world, given the problems that the world is facing, we need to ask, what will it take to educate the next generation of thought leaders for this type of world? And if we look at the way we teach, the way we research, the way we do our jobs as educators, with that in mind, I think we will make immediate impact in whatever it is that we do, thinking, feeling, acting. So by beginning with the end in mind for our COP, it's really what will it take so that we can better prepare our teachers, our students for that type of world. I think all throughout under Iris's leadership for our COP, we've advocated our community to be very inclusive rather than exclusive. So we're not exclusively for teachers, we want it to be inclusive so that researchers, and we have had great researchers come to our sessions, professors, chair professors who are great at research come to our sessions, we've had teachers come to our sessions, we've even had people like Georgina over there, the director of our Institute of Advanced Executive Education, come to our sessions. So I think the spirit of, I think all COPs, in fact, is to be inclusive. And so although we're about teaching excellence, it's not just about teaching, paradoxically. So all are welcome, and I think that's the way we need to be thinking. Because the world's problems are not simple. We need to get more minds together. I'm almost done. There's another key for us to cultivate and to sustain, and that is for us to not just benchmarking best practices, but more importantly, benchmarking next practices in who's doing great work in community to practice, who's doing great teaching, great research, bring it into our PolyU. I think at the end of the day, not just our COP, but all COP, at the end of the day, we're trying to help achieve and enhance the direction that PolyU is going. Amen.
I think there's some great points there, and I'm trying to note things down. Just to pick up on one of the things there, and also going back to something that Jackie said. Yes, we're trying, in every community of practice, you're trying to help the students, you're trying to help the overall teaching quality, the environment, but there has got to be something in it for each and every member of the COP. They've got to feel that they're part of something that is meaningful, that is recognised and is supported, and I think that's an extremely important aspect of things. Otherwise, they will not be sustainable. Jackie, is there anything you'd like to add to what you've heard?
Can you use the microphone?
Just picking up on what Eric said, when someone has an idea for community practice, they usually have a bit of a vision, and they come and they've got an idea. Often it's a challenge, but what I say is just turn it on its head. Think about it as an opportunity. Then go out and recruit the like-minded people. And as I said in the presentation, those people, those members, generate what they would like for the outcomes. So that's what Iris was saying. You need the outcomes, it needs to be outcome driven. So the agenda of community practice is member driven, and membership is voluntary. So people aren't forced into community practice. They're voluntary, they're giving up their time, and they're there because they're passionate. We've all mentioned, and I've mentioned previously, the idea of a champion and a sponsor, and Grace was saying how important valuable that is to have a champion, but everyone is a champion in community practice. And one of the things I did find over the time is the facilitator leadership role is a really important role, but it's a challenging role because it's not a hierarchical role. It's not recognised, you're not appointed to it, and so your members are there voluntary, so you have to work very hard to create an environment where they want to keep coming back and we're getting outcomes. So it is a challenging role, a great leadership role, and very satisfying. So one of the things that we did develop was a community practice for our facilitators to build the capacity of those facilitators.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's move on to question 2. So from experience, what are the key challenges for members and facilitators? And Jackie's just alluded to one. It's a difficult job to try and get people to do things without having any kind of position of power or this kind of aspect of leadership in a sense. And how about the institution, information and sustainability? And how are we going to meet these challenges? So once again, I'd like to go through maybe the facilitators, but let's start perhaps this time with a different person. So maybe we could start with Grace, if that's all right. Grace, have you got any thoughts on question 2? Okay, all right. Any volunteer to start with question 2? Anyone got burning issues or things that are on the tip of their tongue? Andrew? Oh, we have someone here, thank you. Could you just tell us who you are, please?
Yes, Tasmina. Yes, I'm currently working with Julia on COP to enhance students' English. Our way of working with colleagues is we do it informally, right? Like Julia's got somebody she knows very well, and then she'll just email the teachers. For me as well, if I bump into somebody that I know very well, and this colleague will need some support from us, then we will arrange a time to meet, and then we'll do the rest of the things in the subsequent meetings. In general, then we provide tailor-made service, we call it service of support, to each of the faculties that we approach, or if they have heard our names from their colleagues, they will approach us. So that's how we now have developed almost a network of all PolyU faculty staff, not all the departments, but all the faculties in PolyU that participate in our COP, and maybe around 20-something courses or teachers have joined our COP, right? And in terms of the our real service, then we usually look at what they need, and then we study what they need, right? And then we develop some materials based on what they think their teaching needs and what their students need. So then we provide the materials and go to their class and provide some briefings on what we have prepared and what they want us to prepare their students. Then the feedbacks are very positive. Like students really love the materials, some of them. However, we are looking at the challenges here. So I want to mention about the challenges. Sometimes we do feel frustrated because we have put in so much effort, so much time in reading what they have written and telling them what they could do better with our materials. But students are busy, right? And so we have worked with the teachers to upload our materials on their blackboard, and they're there for them to read. And so they just have no time, no time to click the stuff. And that's why sometimes when we collect the feedback, and we do feel a little bit frustrated. But this is the beginning, we know it. So that's why we don't expect a lot. Because we got some other very positive comments. Both the teachers would tell us that we learned from you, right, which is very encouraging. And students would say, okay, good, we like them, right? So if we need them, we can go over there and then click them and then use them, right? So these are the positive side and negative sides. Right? We also offer EDC workshops to teachers based on each of the themes that they may need in their teaching or in their teaching. For example, we offer some workshops on professional English, writing, the use of tenses, and we also offer something on common errors in their students' writing. Right? They're very popular, actually, workshops. So this is something that is very good. The thing is, some other workshops may not be so popular as well. Right? This is another challenge. Maybe they don't find the time to attend, and then they are busy, they are out of town, right? So all these factors will affect, actually will be the challenges that we need to face in our COP. Okay, so I guess I will share that with you.
Thank you very much for sharing. In fact, it sounds from what you're saying that the COP for the English Enhancement for Students is actually taking on a very ambitious role, because you're going outside of your own COP and reaching out to the students and staff. So it's integrated with the work of ELC, and it's challenging yourselves in a big way. For the benefit of staff and students, so well done. That's really good. So yes, time. And we heard about that earlier on. Time is an issue because at PolyU we are not given time to be part of the COP. And I think as part of sustainability, that is probably something that maybe if a COP is successful or needed, if a gap, if a need is identified, then maybe that's something that should actually be looked at. Because if we want things to be successful, if we want them to be sustainable and to achieve what they can achieve, people have got to be given the support to do it. And that can be money, but sometimes it's time, not money. It can be much more important. Anyone else would like to contribute to question 2? Grace, have you managed to catch your thoughts?
Yes, I have. I think it very much echoes what you just said, Iris, and it also ties back into Dr. McDonald's talk. We are all pressed for time. Faculty are time jealous, and pretty much if a COP is going to be formed, if it is going to be sustainable, it's got to provide decent or enough value added. So in other words, we need to stay relevant. We need to continue to stay at the cutting edge so that we can continue to provide enough good value-added activities or resources for our members. And that is something that I think even in our COP, that's something that we continue to see this challenge. We are continuing to meet this challenge, and I think this is something that anybody who's considering a COP needs to be thinking about.
Just before you sit down, not off the hook yet, when you say about value added, and Jackie was talking earlier on about outputs, and that's a way of tracking value added, if you like. What approach are you taking in your COP for that? And maybe it's too early actually.
It's very difficult to answer that question because value added is not something that is necessarily very evidence. Lends itself very much to evidence-driven ways of collecting data, right? I think that evidence, for us at least, value added, the way that we see it is how, why do people keep on coming? Right? Do they keep on coming? That's the first thing. Why do they keep on coming? Do they feel that whatever we do, lends value to their practice? Right? Faculty here, especially at PolyU, are so tremendously busy that I think that if they are taking time to come at all and to stay until the end of the sessions, that is already saying a lot. So at least I think that is the best evidence that we can be providing.
If I can, I'd like to go to Eric because I know that his COP is very successful and I have a very big group that is meeting quite regularly, but how did you achieve that? And the challenges, and how did you overcome them?
Well, I wouldn't call it very successful. We were just plodding along. We started with the COP on the LMS, Learning Management System, and the university, since about 2.5 years ago, also made a decision to embark on not only a learning management system, as always, but also into the journey of massive open online courses. And then I give it some serious thought, discussed with some colleagues. LMS and MOOCs are similar, but not exactly the same thing, right? So then we realized that there are a core group of people who are eagerly wanting to learn about how to design and launch MOOCs. So I just copycat pretty much the same model of the COP on LMS and grow the COP on a community on MOOC, and that turns out to be very successful because clearly that community of MOOC attracts and garners support from people who need the knowledge. These people are knowledge hungry because they want to know how to develop it. Nobody in PolyU has done it before, including me. Right? And now, 1 year after, or 2 years after, 4 teams have done it before. We now are funding 7 teams. And more than that, in the last round, I'm joyful to report that some additional 15 teams are developing mini MOOCs. So now, EDC is looking for bigger and bigger rooms for those workshops. So you see, that's a small, effort in identifying that pocket of knowledge-hungry people, aligned with the topic, aligned with corporate goals, and then just cannibalize it effectively to make it speed bigger. But I do want to allow me, can I spend 1 more minute to talk about some of the challenges, because not everything is glory road, and that's the difficulty with facilitators, right? Facilitators, or more like facilitation skills. And I would say that, of course, everybody here is a teacher, well, more than that, professional teacher. But I don't think everybody here is a very, fluent or competent facilitator, right? And facilitation needs different skills in a COP, because COP, in order to be sustainable and plodding along through the journey, you need to face or prepare to face many different issues, right? Most of the time, hopefully, it's monotonic. In other words, people agree and move forward. But sometimes there are weak signals. Sometimes there are conflicting or even tension. And how do we actually deal with it? And that does require some the additional training on facilitation skills. And sometimes there's also people breaking away doing things which may or may not be approved. I'm not saying that this happened, but I've read case studies talking about that, and COP facilitator and the core group need to step in and restore order in those cases in order to maintain it. So these things, I think, university need to provide more support, and this university is doing very well in providing us with an assuring and comforting environment that COP is legitimate. Spending time with COP is good, and actually joining COP, you will actually help to shorten the time and be able to do your job better. So that part, I think we are quite strong, and we should leverage on that.
Thank you very much, Eric, and some very, very useful points there. Do you have a point to make?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Eric, for showing that. And I also like to echo that we have the tremendous senior management support with Professor Chen here. As part of senior management, I think he's spending also not just supporting me, but also being present here, because we've seen our senior management are really very busy solving a lot of problems that many of us don't see. But he makes sure planning a lot of things going forward. Yes, certainly. But he's here to provide a great support. I think that is wonderful to help overcome some of the challenges we have. Adding to this part about challenges, I think challenges, as Dr. Jackie McDonald has shared with us, can in some way be mitigated by having more passionate people, more resources, and so forth. And I thought it is very important to probably highlight what she said, that she has actually managed to get a lot of recognition and awards for her work, which thank you very much for sharing, because those are the things that can help the COP groups be successful. Because once the group get more recognition, you feel more motivated, your group gets more motivated, senior management starts to pay more attention, and therefore it has that ongoing sustainability impact. So I like to suggest that maybe we should work more on getting that recognition, because I think in our university, I'm actually an observer more than one of the COP members. We've done a lot. I mean, congratulations, you all guys have tremendous benefit that you have seen, but maybe we need to work more on what Jackie has shared with us today to get that recognition and award. The other thing I like to say is one of the things that are very closely related, all of us, is about research. Do we have a COP for research supervisors, as suggested by Jackie this morning? I think not just Jackie, but maybe Alex should be here to hear this, because that's so important. Many of our performance appraiser, especially many of you here, are dependent on that research output. And if we can get a COP going, if that's not one, I'm not sure whether there is one or not, then it may help us to move forward in terms of the institutional goals, the individual goals as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Certainly we need more COPs. We need to identify the gaps, and you have identified one, and there are others. And certainly if you have any interest in forming or being part of a COP that doesn't yet exist, or even if you just see that we need one, but you're maybe a little bit reluctant to put yourself forward, but feed those ideas to Julia and EDC, because they are needed. There's lots and lots of areas where at the moment we're underserved, where we need to build that community, build that expertise, share practices. And going back to what you were saying, and also Eric, we need to recognize the achievements. Once you've got a small achievement, celebrate it. Let other people know about it. Let them take part in it and celebrate it. And then you're on a roll, because success generates success. And if you keep it a secret, you're doing well, your COP is doing well, but it's not pushing out beyond the boundaries. And it will fail in the end, because if no one celebrates your success, you feel rather demoralized. Everyone does. So these are really good points. Thank you. Going around, yes, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Eric, for doing this. I think I like this interactive mode better. I asked EDC not to put the panel up front, because it just destroyed the entire interactive atmosphere of this room. So I think this is good. And also I find it much easier when Eric talks and then Georgina talks and then I talk because of the proximity. Anyhow, I think that Q2 for question 2, one big challenge I think is for COP and COP members is to gain control. Georgina mentioned about senior management very busy. Yes, we're very busy because we do a lot of things. We do a lot of different things. It doesn't mean that we do a lot in one thing and then we do it well. When we make decision, at least for myself, I speak for myself, I don't know the topic. This room interactive is not from me. This room interactive is from Iris and her team. So what I can do is I listen to the group. I think it's a good idea. Let them try, give them the resource, and then they try, evaluate, good work, continue doing it. It's nothing to do with senior management. We are not wiser than any of you here. Why we can do things because we have resource that we can deploy. I think that's all about it. So when for me, I want to see COP to gain control on the things that they do, and then I think somebody mentioned it could be Andrew or somebody else actually mentioned, and also Jackie also mentioned that I very much would want to see COP to influence policy. At one time, when we developed some policy, we sent it to COP for comments. That's one thing that we can do, but also in the future, if COP can initiate some policy change, I think that would be even better. My bet is why Eric's group is doing good, is doing well, is because Eric is very much close to the policy making of e-learning in this university. So what it means is when something is discussed at COP, it's quite easy for Eric to channel this to the senior management and then make things happen. So I think it's important to gain control. Early on you mentioned about students that are busy, right? But why students are busy? Why? Then you would say, well, because of the university, because of all that. No, it's because teachers, because we put in a lot of credits the students are required to complete. And then in each credit, we worry because of our insecurity. We worry that the students, we have not engaged the students enough. So we give them a lot of things to do. Okay? So it's all us. If you can gain control, if you can say, let's cut credits, let's not have students doing 150 credits, let's do 120, it will work. We can free up a lot of time to the students, and then for you, when you ask your students to communicate with you, they will be more willing. So I think the most important is to have teachers to be in control, to develop the COP into a group to become the knowledge hub, and then senior management will need to consult you, and then you also will be able to initiate some change to the university and leading to the betterment of the university. So, but asking our teachers to take control, I think this is a main challenge for the leaders, right? They want to join, but if you ask us to talk something more serious, forget it. We just come here to share. Okay. So how can we do it? We go beyond sharing. The more is taking control. I think is something that we can further discuss and then do in the future.
Thank you, Chairman. Now there is an open door there. Right? Management, senior management is open to policy changes, and COPs should be agents for change, but good change and for a reason and in order to achieve something that is in line with the university's goals and aspirations. So senior management is open to this, so it's up to the COPs to put together their proposal with rationale, with preliminary evidence, or whatever it might be, and things will happen. Things will happen. We're in a time of very rapid change here. We're in a time where resources themselves are not so great an issue, but it's where to deploy them to best effect. And senior management, I think, is definitely actively looking how they can do that. And it is quite refreshing, very refreshing, for PolyU to be looking for teachers to drive those changes, rather than for senior management to be telling staff what to do and how to do it. Jackie, did you have a point that you wanted to raise there? I thought maybe you... Oh, it's Kevin, right.
This room has been notorious in terms of feedback, so I'll try to stick my head in the same position before I finish it. It's been great to see so many COP members and leaders in the same room, and no, not in this position. No. Yes, it's okay. Much of the focus has been focused on the input, the resources, the infrastructure, the money, the very decent coffee and snacks, and the incentive schemes. But I think much has been overlooked is the process in which members are being transformed. I know that there are at least 3 to 4 psychologists in the room, but still I can do this. I believe it has much to do with individual members' empowerment. Okay? And I'm talking about the C, B, and A of empowerment, cognitive empowerment, preparing them with knowledge, skills, this is the service. The next is behavioral empowerment, getting them to do things by themselves. As I can see, as near as the 2 tables around me, there are many colleagues have been presenters or facilitators at COP events, like Robert in library, HC for the service learning, Valentina for the Quakers team, Helen for the Quakers team, and Alan on this LMS COP team. Getting them to do the stuff in front of other members is important, and I believe the most important next stage is to get them to empower in an effective way. They have to feel themselves that they have the skills to do it, they can actually do it, and they are confident in doing it and feeling great about doing it. If you talk about control, that might be when our COP members are being empowered in terms of the cognitive aspects, in terms of their behavioral competence, and as well as the emotional attachment to the group that would make them develop a sense of belonging into the group.
Thank you very much, Kevin. And actually that brings me to the only question I've got so far that someone put in the yellow box. But it relates to that, because the question is how to minimise the dropouts. People may join a COP, and then you've got quite a number of people, you've got a critical mass, but then as time goes on, people don't come to the meetings, they drop out. Maybe they don't feel empowered, maybe they don't feel part of a cohesive group. I'm not sure if anyone, if whoever put this question in would like to expand on their theme. I'm not going to put you on the spot. There we go. How are you going to do that?
You can always put me on the spot, Iris.
I'm always interested in the social psychological question of who is not in the room, rather than who is in the room. I think as I look around and I listen, I'm surrounded by a group of proactive extroverts who recognize that COPs solve particular problems and address particular problems of relevance to them in particular. But my question is always, what do we do about the people who are less proactive, more introverted, but still would own some of this problem as relevant to themselves? So I think we should consider COPs as units of initiative, you might say, and that part of their agenda ought to be communicating whatever they discover in effective ways to those who are not in the room but for whom the problem is relevant, so that it's an explicit part of the agenda for any COP would involve the issue of getting to people for whom this problem is relevant but who are not likely to turn up for the social side of these functions and to be more initiative and forthcoming dealing with their problems. Does that make sense? That who's not in the room, and what are we going to do about the less proactive introverts for whom this is a relevant issue?
I think that's a very, very important. I've written on the board there, do not preach only to the converted. So you've got a group that comes together through a common interest or to address a common gap or issue that they all identify. But yes, you need to reach out and bring other people. And that goes back to one of the points that was made earlier on by Eric. You've got to proactively go out and reach people and bring them into the fold, so to speak. Those people who are maybe a little bit less proactive, a little bit newer, more junior, more passive, more frightened of speaking up, because there is a cultural issue here, there definitely is. The people who do speak up, and I can tell you this from personal experience, the people who do speak up very loudly are not necessarily received well. Because you're causing ripples in what should be a harmonious kind of a placid pool. But we are academics, and our job is to challenge the status quo. You cannot move forward if you don't do that. Even if you decide that no change is needed, at least it allows you to reflect and examine what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how you're doing it. So I think that's a very, very important point. Josie, you have a point.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, Jackie showed the image of like the concentric shapes and how different people may be in a different place within a COP. And you have core members, you have people that are more on the fringe. And I know I've had involvement with several of them, sometimes more core and more fringe. And I just wanted to say that I think it's a misnomer, even if it's supposed to be member-driven and outcome-focused, that we all have the same drives, the same motivations. Because what I've observed and what I've also experienced is it can be different, a COP, the same COP, can be different things to different people, even at the same time, and also different things to the same person across time. I know that, for example, using service learning as an example, because it was cross-discipline and there were maybe only one or two teachers in different disciplines starting out, when they first came to the early sharing sessions, they were just so relieved to see that there were actually other people at the university that cared about service learning the way they cared about it. So that was definitely feeding a kind of emotional need, you might say, that Kevin was talking about. Another thing that we often find is sometimes it's enough, even if people don't come to every single meeting, that they leave feeling that they got something that can help them do it better or more confidently or faster. Because sometimes we can share a good practice that just saves time. Rather than giving people release time, perhaps they learn how to do something in a way that they feel is more efficient. We joke about the food and stuff like that, but I don't think we should overlook that, because I think that's a key part, and Milton Cox talks about it too, that we need to make sure that there's a social component. Maybe not for everybody, but we all have to eat. It brings us together. But there are other kinds of rewards. Like if we look across the 5 COPs we had, many of them had money for professional development for people to do things. So maybe people didn't get release time, but if they came deeply involved, then they were able to go to a conference to present something and things like that. So different things for different people within the same COP.
Okay, thank you. And I've written down there members have different needs and they can contribute different things. Some people go along to a COP to learn. Some people might go along to a COP simply to get to know other people because they're relatively new or they feel rather isolated because academics do work in silos and we get very little chance to meet people outside our immediate discipline area or department. And other people go because they feel perhaps that they can contribute something to the development of other people. And all of these things are equally valid and the role will change in different time and different topics, etc. So that's an excellent point. Thank you. Anyone else like to raise an issue?
Yes, I'd just like to further substantiate what Josie and other colleagues have said. Now, firstly, some members are not coming, consistently or perpetually to COP. activities, that's not, a sign of immediately jumping to the conclusion that these people are out. That's not, because people lost interest in the CLP or not coming to CLP activities for a number of reasons. Firstly, as we thought along, the CLP domain may have lost its relevance, or maybe this person's job has changed, and therefore this particular domain is no longer of high relevance or contribution to this particular person or interest. That's one. The second one is, to me, it's nothing wrong that a CLP has a poor number of people and a larger number of people on the periphery. In fact, that's perfectly normal. And there will be occasions and incidents, most likely triggered by incidents, where people move beyond these boundaries. So, for example, someone on the peripheral, wow, I've never seen you for 6 months. How come you come to this meeting regularly? And then some people come for the first 6 times and never come for the next 7 times, right? Because of the issue, because of changes in the environment, which we may or may not be able to control. To me, there's nothing wrong. We look at Wikipedia, look at that as a community, a public community. I read from research statistics saying that, wow, something like 80% of the changes and updates are produced by about 3 to 5% of the people. So what about the other 95%? They're all basic violence, right? Another point I want to make is, now I could be wrong here, so don't copy. we are all professional teachers, so of course we always maintain fairness and absolute fairness to all students. In CLP activities, in CLP cultivation of relationship and working with colleagues, I actually occasionally apply the opposite. I discriminate. I work more, I put more effort with people who are more passionate, because together we can achieve a lot faster and lots more, and use that momentum to drag other people in. So I use this strategy deliberately, rather than, because if you have a membership of 50, okay, 20 people always come, and you have to knock on the door of the other 30, why don't you come? You run out of energy, right? I would rather work with these 20 core people and achieve more, and then inspire the others to come. So for example, this Friday, I've rounded up or invited a number of colleagues, teaching fellows, and we have coffee. I tell them about, I'll share them about, updates of teaching and learning at the university, so they input and talk about CLPs. So the word spread, hopefully later on, some people who did not come, or will not come, will learn about what they have missed about not knowing about CLP, what they've missed about not applying for the teaching learning grants, and all these things. Thank you.
Well, there's a model there that can go into the models for CLP, because basically this is a kind of feed-forward thing. We have limited energy, we have limited time, and although I have to say that Eric's enthusiasm and energy seems endless, it can also be endless. But if you can create within your own CLP an inner core, and each of those can develop another core, then the influence will spread without draining the energy and enthusiasm of the person who tries it to begin with. So I think that's a very good point to take on. I'd like to move to question 3, because I'm aware of the time. I want to finish it. Oh, sorry, Jackie, I didn't see your answer.
If I could just wrap up the discussion. There is a term which is a bit difficult to get your head around, so I just might like to write it up, called LLP. Etienne Wenger calls it legitimate peripheral participation. And it's a recognition of the fact that there's always a core member, and it's usually around that a group that come regularly. But there's people that move in and out, and there's recognition in the community practice literature that is a very legitimate process. I think for facilitators, the tricky thing is you're keen, you're passionate, you've organised something, and people that you thought would come don't come. You find that challenging and disappointing. And that's why the community practice leadership role is particularly difficult and needs a lot of support from the members and other leaders. So just recognising that the different levels of interaction is legitimate. And there's also quite a bit in the literature about vicarious learning. So you're learning by watching others learn. So we talk a lot about online, how to engage your students, keep them engaged, keep them coming and being active. But as Eric said, for the Google, a very small percentage are actually working at that level, and the other people are learning by watching people learn, and then they may move in when they feel comfortable or when they feel able to make that contribution. So that LLP term, it is a term to feel confident about and not feel challenged by lack of engagement.
Thank you, Jackie. So, again, going to COPs, it should be very influential within the group, bit by bit, whether you're actively involved or whether you're, as Jackie was saying, I think I've got it right, legitimate peripheral participants, is that right? I'd like to move to question 3, because we'll have to finish up in about 10 minutes' time. I warn you in advance, Robert and Andrew, I'm going to ask for your views on this first. The question is, what about the future opportunities for COPs, the existing ones or potential new ones, given the changing environment that we're working in, changing student demands and requirements and student demographics, the way in which in universities we are expected to be teaching, which is more interactive, more online, etc. So where do you see the opportunities? Maybe Andrew, would you like to kick this off?
The most difficult question. But I can replace higher education with academic rising. Yeah? It's facing many challenges. Basically, I think we are like, say for student cohort, we have many different ways of getting into university now. We have senior intake students, we have articulation students, we have 4-year program students. We have diplomas, we have non-local students, we have exchange students, right? So I'm sure there's a lot of challenges in academic rising as well as opportunities that all teachers are, in their mind thinking of how to really to sustain or improve the quality of education. And part of it is how do you coach the student, how do you help them when they have learning needs and so on. And I think that is, when core members work together, I think it's very often that we talk about these possible issues and opportunities. And I think and all these continuous changes, I think people are not unaware of, but they have to learn new ways of doing the same thing, right, in order to meet the challenge. So in academic rising, some of the questions that the core members especially they bring up are very sort of basic issues, like the students are more alienated from the teachers now. And so how if we sort of really have a heart to call them to come, why nobody come? Well, I'm very busy. Why they don't come? And if there are people who are missing from class for a pretty long time, nobody knows where he is. So we have to be a detective. We have to train the detective to find out where they are and get in touch, because they are risky. They may have some issues which indicate a risk, in their academic study. So I see a lot of opportunities that COPs could help teachers to equip themselves to face all the challenges that I said, especially in terms of what you say, student cohort changes in student cohort, globalization, a lot of internationalization, student exchange students and so on. And in this very busy kind of academic life, I'm sure the COP could help people to equip themselves. And this is the bottom line of all COP is a learning community. So if people don't feel that they have something to learn from this community, this is going to change.
Now that is a really, really interesting series of comments there, because we've heard earlier on academic advising is a very well established model here. So that particular community of practice is perhaps one that is not so directly needed, but within that community of practice and within that area, there are many, many others that could seed off. So you might want to have a community of practice for looking after international students and training staff how to deal with them, counselling skills, all sorts of other things that stem from a mature COP that itself perhaps isn't so needed now, but you've identified lots of needs. And I think that's a very, very important thing. People sometimes dwell on the challenges and the problems more than the opportunities that arise through them. You can be a glass half empty or a glass half full person. And if you're a glass half empty person and you develop an obsession with challenges and problems, you will be very depressed and you will never get to do anything positive. So I would encourage all of you to look at these opportunities coming from challenges and develop new COPs. And everyone who's in a COP, see if you can think about how you can seed off new ones that are needed, going back to identifying the gaps. Robert, can I come to you to see if you've got anything that you'd like to contribute to questions?
Yeah, putting it all in context, I'm very inspired by our involvement with COPs. I think it's a great opportunity because the way I see it, COP is a chance for us to make a difference. The university is supporting us on this. We can drive this. So my mother always said, make something out of nothing. And I think the opportunity is so profound that it almost appears that it's got nothing to do with our careers, it's got nothing to do with our research, it's not really going to help us in any real way. But just like how I teach my students, I teach a subject called strategy. In the very first week I tell them, I'm going to teach you strategy by not teaching you strategy.
That's your strategy.
And that was the whole point. Throughout the entire semester, I'm bombarding them from all different angles with examples that got nothing to do with the subject, but upon deep thinking, it had everything to do with it. So I like to link that example with COP. The things that, for example, our COP and all the other COP, like in particular for us, developing, recognizing, rewarding excellent teaching, the things that we have been able to achieve has really had a significant impact on my own practice as an educator. It was counterintuitive. It seemed like it had nothing to do with it, and yet it had everything to do with it. So I think it's an opportunity for everybody. It's just like hard work. It looks like it's too hard. But when you get into it, you can get a huge return on investment on this that can take you to a whole new level, which has had for our COP members. Very quickly, in answer specifically to question 3, I still feel as educators, we really need to have a deeper understanding about the unsolved problems, issues, and challenges out there. Once we've got a deeper understanding, we can work backwards to what type of learning and teaching approaches can we use to better equip our students and teachers and administrators for that purpose. This will actually mean we need to literally think, feel, and act differently to what we've been doing before. Because the problems of today are not the same as the problem we had yesterday. So we need to change our approach here. I was saying in my class, when we see things differently, we see different things. Awesome! That was the key for me and my students. The other beauty about, I love the way Iris framed it, how she reframed from the negative to the positive. There are opportunities here. Now, one of the great things about COP is that it's brought people from different disciplines, from different faculties, and just by having that platform opens and broadens our thinking. We walk away. I met somebody from another faculty, and she or he had a totally different take on what I had, and that just opened up my mind. At the end of the day, I think we need to go back to the very basic of why are we here in the first place as educators. Yeah, thank you. So Michael agrees. Why are we here in the first place? To make this world a better place.
Wow, that's a bit ambitious, but let's do it. And Robert said at the end of the day, now we're not at the end of the day, but we're almost halfway through. I'd like to just finish this session, just with a few points that I've written down to recap. Thank you all very much for your contributions, and for here we're going to have lunch. I'll just do a few recap, and then I'll ask Professor Chekming Chan if he's got any closing remarks for this session. This afternoon we've got a workshop, and I do hope that you all come back for that. But this is the COP finale, but it's not actually a finale. It's a celebration of what has been achieved so far, and we're very delighted to have an overseas expert to come and talk to us and to lead us into the next phase of COPs here. We clearly are identifying that they are very useful things to have, and we should have more of them. The finale is not the end. There is a very good poem by T.S. Eliot, and to paraphrase it, he says, at the end of your journey, you will be back where you started, and you will see the place for the first time. And that's sort of where we are. We've been on a journey for the last 2 years. We've come full circle, and now we see what we should be doing and maybe how we can do it better. In terms of new COPs, we have 5 at the moment, but I have written down perhaps we need another COP in innovative and interacting teaching, and how to use rooms like this, which there is a bit of a resistance to, and there is maybe a lack of experience and confidence in some of our staff to actually use spaces like this. We perhaps need a new COP for induction and orientation of new academic staff, because we don't have formalised things like that at the moment. We need perhaps a COP for developing and designing new generation learning spaces. We have a very successful working group, and there'll be a 10-year revitalisation plan. But to open it up to a COP in a more informal way, we can maybe get better insights and evaluation. Student engagement, how to reach out to them, and going back to something that Andrew was saying from the academic advising. Why not have student-based COPs, where the students help to look after each other and identify problems and feed them up to the members of staff and the units that can help them. Cross-disciplinary programs, which this university doesn't have many of, if any, at the moment. But maybe a COP could look at where we can join different elements of different programs to create new, exciting programs. Maybe minors to begin with, but developing new, to engage and inform for the next academic plan. Remember, senior management is open to these ideas because they want to engage staff in driving the university to new frontiers. And what was mentioned earlier on, something about research, training up, sharing, developing research supervision skills, which is something that really I think is a very, very worthwhile endeavour. So those are just some suggestions, and I'm sure you've all got others. I would ask Loretta, well not Loretta, sorry, Loretta has left us now, but Leona is here. Where is Leona? I would ask Leona to maybe just copy down some of the things that have been written here in relation to the questions. I'm going to be quiet now, which is very difficult for me, but I'm going to try. And I'm going to pass over to Chekming to just, if you've got any final remarks before people go for lunch, but do come back later.
Thank you very much. I was, actually I don't have too much to say, but I find myself learning a lot of things today, particularly the meaning of COP and also the what COP can do. Now, I just want to remind every one of you here, you are not just a teacher, because as a teacher, it just seems to me that it's a job. You are a lot more than that, because in university, as a teacher, you are a professional. As a professional, maybe a designer here, maybe an engineer there, you attend, you participate in professional association, you attend conference. Just as what Jackie said, we do a lot of things, but within the teaching what we do in learning and teaching, it seems that a lot of us just do it in isolation. We just say this is a subject, you deliver the subject, you get an SFQ and done. I'm sure as a teacher in university, each one of us, including myself, can do a lot more than that. I go back to what you just mentioned about COP, sharing, of course, is good. Then beyond sharing, it would be the networking. Beyond networking, it would be the development of new skills. Beyond that, it would be creating knowledge hub. And beyond that is empowerment. And finally, is team control. So I think all these roles that, as a member of COP and also leader of COP, you can look at each of them and see whether you'd like to engage in it and then pursue it. As mentioned by Iris many times, the senior management of this university is ready to take whatever the outcome of COPs at the different levels that will try to help and support and just to work collaboratively with the COP to make learning and teaching enjoyable in this university. We always look at what we lost when we joined COP, the time, and I need to share what I know, but please look at it more positively. I think, is it Eric? Or somebody mentioned about Iris, or Robert mentioned about Iris, turn things very positive. And I think as a member, we also want to put things more positive. Just think about what you would gain when you engage in COP. I think that will make our life much better in the higher education sector. So I congratulate everyone. I thank Jackie again for spending time with us. Very much appreciate. I'd like to thank all of you spending your time here, but I'm sure you will gain a lot more than spending the 3 hours in this room. So have a very good summer and a very fresh start in September. So I pass my back to Iris.
Okay, thank you very much.